Ladies and gentlemen, India has made a clear bid, and it seems that all our efforts are going to put to actually winning the bid for the 2036 Olympic Games. The Olympics have never been held in India. Never. We've successfully done the Asian Games. We've successfully held the Commonwealth Games. But the Olympics have never been held in India. There are many reasons for that, historical and otherwise. But what seems likely, as we speak, the International Olympic Committee is meeting in Mumbai. The Prime Minister was there yesterday, in which he made clear India's ambitions. And what is subsequently going to follow over the next 12-13 years is not only the efforts to win the bid by putting together a proposal. There is a belief that India can organize things. If we can build the 50 kilometers of roads a day, if we can build the parliament in 2 years, if we can build Bharat Mandapam in less than 4 years, it seems that we have the wherewithal, which is a lot different, because I was very much doing this job when my hair was not grey, when the CWGs were happening. And I remember till the last minute, the sports bodies were threatening that they'll cancel the games, shift the games, because we were really struggling to just get the basic infrastructure, the roads all sorted out. Then of course the infamous scams took place. Some umbrellas were sold for 18,000 rupees and all sorts of things happened. I don't know what happened to that. That of course will be better left to the people investigating Suresh Kalmadi. But I want to have a larger conversation, and let's begin that conversation by, I'm going to ask my producers to put this screen image. This is Athens, 1896. So that's 127 years ago, when the first modern Olympics were revived. Now, we've all studied this in our NCERT textbooks of the Coubertin holding a meeting in 1894, saying that these games representing what was Hellenic culture, Greek culture, should be reorganized at a global scale. And this was done in Olympia, which was the home of the Pan-Hellenic Games, where the Spartans and the Athenians and the Thebaeans all contested. So the conceptualization of this rostra, which you're seeing on your screens, in 1896, shows the emergence of the Citius, Altius, Fortius, faster, higher, stronger. Makes you wonder, doesn't it? As India's sporting glory now changes, then is it possible that for the 6,000-7,000 year old civilization we had, that sports were of no consequence here in India? Let me just pick out, if my producers will allow me, another image on your screens. This, ladies and gentlemen, is Philippides. Now we're talking about the 5th century BC, okay? And so goes the Greek myth, Greek epic, that was a battle of Marathon was underway, of a Persian invasion of the Greek home states. And this man, for whom a statue has been constructed on the route between Marathon and Athens, he spotted a Persian ship changing course from Marathon to Athens. So, in order to warn the Athenians that an invasion was about to happen, he ran from Marathon to the capital Athens, a distance of just over 42 kilometers. And of course, depends on which version of the epic you believe. As soon as he reached, he informed the city elders that the Persians are coming, and immediately dropped dead. So a tribute to Philippides of Marathon, we run marathons every year all over the world. The full marathon is 42 kilometers, half marathon, which is more popular these days, is 21 kilometers. Another Greek tradition. You must have heard of Greco-Roman wrestling, Greek-Roman tradition of sport. Makes you really, really wonder, okay, that what was the ancient Indian sporting traditions? Were there none? Because if we are to believe, we had nothing, because all the great sporting traditions in the world originated in Italy, in Greece, nothing much in the rest of the world happened. So let me put that into context before I open up this conversation for just a second. Now, when we think of archery, here is a face that should be familiar to everyone. Have a look at this. Sound familiar? This is, of course, Disney's illustration of the famous, infamous Robin Hood. You've all read the stories of his band of merry men fighting the evil sheriff of Nottingham. And what was Robin Hood? He was an excellent archer. Sheriff of Nottingham, we talk about 300-400 years ago, in the Middle Ages, medieval period of British history. And I've been to the Nottingham Forest, where the mythology of Robin Hood comes from. So we've all heard this story. Here's, maybe you've seen the movies, maybe you've read the books for sure. Here's a book I doubt anybody has read, including me. Had never really heard of it, let alone read it. There are English translations available. This, ladies and gentlemen, is a modern publication of the Dhanurved, Dhanushban, Dhanurved. Depending on the complex history of when it was actually written, it's probably between 2,000 to 4,000 years old. It was an Indian treatise specializing in martial arts with a primary focus in archery. And why is that? So here's another photograph which will put it into sort of perspective for us the best we can. This, ladies and gentlemen, is a statue of somebody holding a Dhanushban, a bow and arrow. This is supposed to be Arjuna. And the famous story of Arjuna and being able to hit the eye of the bird. But we'll think the most famous archer, does the name Robin Hood come to mind or does the name Arjuna come to mind? Most likely the word Robin Hood name comes to mind, okay? So the science of archery, let alone the practice of archery, the science of archery written down maybe between 2,000 to 4,000 years ago in India. An Indian sport, of course, a martial sport. And ladies and gentlemen, it won't be a massive leap of imagination. Here is an individual on your screens. I want you to be able to recognize Vishwanathan Anand. Okay, everybody knows him, chess grand master. We have so many of them these days. He's holding a white pawn in his hand. He's, of course, gained mastery on a sport that originated in India. Okay. Let me put another person on your screens. This, ladies and gentlemen, speaking of archery, here, this man has just won India's silver medals at the Asian Games. We won 5 medals in archery, a silver, a bronze in the individual categories and 3 gold that took place in the categories of miss. This is Abhishek Verma, and won a sport in archery. So Abhishek's lineage as an Indian archer goes back 4,000 plus years to the Dhanurveda. And it's not a coincidence that the cover of this illustration of the Dhanurveda is the children being taught archery holding a bow and arrow. Let me put another image on your screens just for an interesting perspective. something that you'll recognize, something maybe, perhaps, that you've played as well, maybe in school. This is a team playing Kho-kho. Sorry about that. Here. This is a team playing Kho-kho. Now, I played Kho-kho in school, and I can tell you it wasn't a very popular sport. People wanted to play cricket, they wanted to play basketball, they wanted to play tennis. Kho-kho was seen as one thing that the teachers made us do, which nobody really wanted to do. Until you read the history of Kho-kho, minimum 2,500 years. In fact, the ground preparation of the Kho-kho mats, which started with straw basically, it's been investigated that they date as old as 2,500 years ago. So the game was probably being played before that. What is Kho-kho? Think about it. What is the skill it's supposed to be teaching you? The ability to respond quickly as a team to target a versatile foe when you yourself are handicapped, which means that of the people who are sitting on the ground facing opposite directions, only one can be active at a time, and they have an opposing team who is able to do all sorts of things, run in between, run up and down in any direction, change direction, but you can't, and yet you're supposed to win. Here's another image that you will probably recognize, is being made popular by the Pro Kabaddi League these days, but this is Kabaddi. Okay? Another sport which is gaining in popularity in India. Again, most probably goes back to the days of the Mahabharata. Some historians have written that the genesis of Kabaddi was the ability to scale the walls of an enemy, target multiple foes, enemies in an area, and come back unscathed. And that is the genesis of the modern sport, that you go across the line and you have to target multiple people, get as many of them as possible, and come back untouched. You can cross over, doesn't make a difference how many are trying to stop you. And this also mythologically goes back to Lord Krishna, to Arjuna, learning these skills as a kind of a martial art. Now, the reason I'm giving this perspective, and here's another one, this you'll recognize, men on horses with big mallets, is polo. Another game that originated in India, minimum 1,000, 2,000 years old, became popular under the British, obviously. Polo, Kho-kho, Kabaddi, the Dhanur Veda, chess. There's another fascinating, and I'm going to put this on your screens. It's called 5 stones or 7 stones, which is a kind of a gulli danda kind of exercise. All these sports which we look down upon as piddly, old-fashioned games, which are more in tune with people playing on the streets, let alone being played in stadiums. So 7 stones, what is that game about? There's a pile of 7 stones in the center of a ring, which gets shattered. Opponents of the other team have to come back and reconstruct those stones while their opponents are throwing balls at them. One of India's first ball games. Ball games are very popular. Polo is a ball game. This is a ball game. And the idea was that you have to avoid the missiles, the balls that are being thrown at you, while having the dexterity to reconstruct the 7 stones. Seems like a petty game, no? Great martial tradition in it. Okay, so I'm going to jump into this telecast because we have a lot of people, and let me, as of course we are going through an earthquake simultaneously, let me just address this with our guest joining us on the broadcast. and just have a quick question. Sunita Kodara is with us. She's a former Olympian. Vedveer Arya is with us, joining us on the broadcast. Let me start with you, Sunita ji, before I introduce the other guests and come back to you. I see Himanshu ji also sitting with us. Sunita ji, so what was ancient Indian sport? Because it seems unbelievable that India had no sporting tradition until the British codified cricket.
See, we are into sports from Mahabharata time, like you were just explaining. We had Arjuna, we had Bhim, so we can't say that we didn't have a sporting culture, but only thing is competitive sports, yes, we were lagging behind so far when the Olympics started and all those things. But now with this year, it seems, the scenario is different. India is improving, showing, all the sports persons are showing performance because of the infrastructure and all. So, what was our tradition? It is Vedic culture, We had sports. Name it Tirandaji, name it martial art, Kushti, wrestling. And then, this strength games. We had all this through our Vedas and all. So it's not. We can't say that we didn't have sports. Now, in the modern era, for the Olympics, what PM Modi has declared that he is intent to go for the bidding or interested that India must now hold the Olympics, because see, we have done all the games, Asian Championships, Commonwealth Games, and now the Olympics.
Yeah.
So this is the right time that PM has announced.
Yeah, so there is excitement, and that excitement gives us an opportunity for rediscovery, and perhaps even, might I be presumptuous enough to propose that the time has come for a conversation, at least starting with chess, for the inclusion as an Olympic sport. It hasn't been discussed for 80 years. Proposals were made in the 1930s. It's an Indian sport. Perhaps others, which I've just mentioned, at least as demonstration games, Kho-kho, which has happened in the past, Kabaddi, so many others, and so much to learn. Perhaps a chance. And let me get, before I get Gyan Singh, who's joining us, Balwinder Singh, both who played in the Olympics. Gyan Singh ji is, of course, Dhyan Chand awardee. Vedveer Arya is on the broadcast with us also. Arya ji, now I've read about the Olympic Games when I was in school. I know the javelin throw, which of course we are now dominating with the world's greatest javelin thrower, gold medalist is an Indian. The discus throw, the Greco-Roman wrestling, we're all well aware of this. But somewhere we've forgotten Indian sporting culture and tradition. We almost look down upon it. Kho-kho is seen as a poor man's cousin. Kabaddi is not really considered, or at least wasn't until recently when the Pro Kabaddi League started. In school it was considered as a low grade sport. Everybody wanted to play basketball and tennis and other things. How do we tell the story of Indian sports?
Yeah, Rishabh. The real problem is during last 200 years of and later period, during the colonial era and the post-colonial era, we just forgotten our traditions. If you look at Mahabharata, there was competitions of war games, and Karna was not allowed because he did not qualify as a prince. And apart from that, during those days, even to avoid a war, they used to have a competition, like Jarasandha and Bhima had a wrestling match. So there are numerous traditions. Even during the Buddhist period, Bodhidharma, he was a Kerala and the Tamil Nadu, an expert of martial arts. He went to China at Shaolin Monastery. He introduced the Indian martial arts, and later that evolved into Kung Fu. What was that? So, apart from that, even the Kerala, the kind of a boat competition, boat rides and the boat races.
Yeah, good.
Traditions existed, even the Jallikattu and chariot races. India had numerous competitions, chariot races. Actually, Indians introduced the chariots to the Western world. Recently found archaeological evidence is that war chariots driven by two horses is actually Indian invention, and same thing has been mentioned by Al-Biruni in his books. He says that Indians, kings who actually introduced the war chariots to the world. And apart from that,
Okay, so basically I'm showing an example on our screens, and it's open to, I know, 3,000, 4,000 years of mythology, but everybody who's watching the broadcast has probably heard the story of the Chakravyu. Okay, now a deliteration has been put that the evolution of the sport of Kho-kho is part of the training stratagem on how to tackle the Chakravyu, where one single person is able to go in and come out unscathed when there is a whole group of people trying to capture. Kabaddi, the ability to scale into enemy territory, inflict the maximum number of casualties and yourself escape. They were, today we won't consider them martial arts. I don't think, you think judo, karate, martial arts, you don't think of Kabaddi, Kho-kho as martial arts for sure.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, even this Chakravyuha, what you have just referred to, since ancient times, Indians followed rules in the war, because war always been viewed as a competition between two professional armies. That's why they always followed the rules. This is the reason why Babur, when he came, he used to mock Indians. They said the Indians are very brave soldiers, but they are fools. They follow rules in the game, in the war. So actually, we always treated, even Chakravyuha, it's a kind of a game where a person has to enter and then he has to come out. And there are a lot of skills he has to develop. And these actually taught in the Gurukulas to the all princes, when they, like you just mentioned about the Dhanurveda also. And there is the Shabda Bhedi. You have to just blindfolded an archer, a person, and then you have to hit the target. And the same thing tested when the Draupadi Swayamvara, the Arjuna has to hit a moving target, seeing that in a water.
Yeah.
So these kinds of
so the genesis of
the
point I'm trying to make is the genesis of the javelin throw, the marathon, the genesis of the discus throw. They all come from some kind of martial traditions or martial history. India has its own, which we have not forgotten, which is unbelievable. Kho-kho is still played today. Kabaddi is still played today. Okay, but they are not been put at the same pedestal because we of course been doing Greco-Roman wrestling. You can well argue that the first stories of boxing as an organized sport also originated in India. It's an argument which requires further research. Let me quickly get Balwinder Singh ji, and he is representing a sport in which India has had the maximum Olympic glory of hockey. Balwinder ji, both for the future of Indian sport, which looks very bright, and the rediscovery of India's sporting glory, how do we rediscover our sporting heritage, sir? कैसे rediscover करें?
जैसे अभी हमारे प्रधानमंत्री जी ने बोला कि हम ओलंपिक्स जो है इंडिया में कराएंगे, पहली बात तो ये बहुत ही अच्छी बात है कि हमारे प्राइम मिनिस्टर साहब इतने इंटरेस्टेड है कि फर्स्ट ओलंपिक्स गेम है जो हमारे इंडिया में हो रही है। एक स्पोर्ट्समैनों के लिए बहुत खुशी की बात है, और स्पेशली हमारे स्पोर्ट्समैनों ने एशियन गेम में बहुत अच्छी परफॉर्मेंस की है। 107 मेडल लेके आए हैं, जो कि एक बहुत सलांगा योग है। इससे हमारी स्पोर्ट्स, जैसे ओलंपिक मंत्री ने अनाउंस किया कि हम लेंगे, उससे स्पोर्ट्समैनों का मॉरल जो है बहुत अप जाएगा।
Okay, let me quickly get a word in. I think we might have lost the connection with you. Gyan Singh ji, what do you make of the fact that the Olympic Games are likely? We don't know yet, we'll have to win the bid, but संभावना है कि 13 साल बाद ओलंपिक गेम्स इंडिया में होंगे, और ये भारतीय स्पोर्टिंग सभ्यता क्या है हमारी? What is it?
आपने कुछ काफी हद तक तो आपने बता ही दिया है कि 776 ईस्वी को ओलंपियाड घाटी में ओलंपिक शुरू हुआ था, तो उसमें आपने बताया कि एक ही गेम होता था, रेसलिंग। लेकिन उसमें थोड़े से लोग कुछ उसमें ये है कि वो बॉक्सिंग भी कह सकते हैं, क्योंकि उसमें जो पहला जो ओलंपिक शुरू हुआ था तो उसमें गड्ढे में छोड़ देते थे, जो रेसलर जीत के बाहर आ जाता था उसको हम विनर मानते थे। इस टाइप की थी वो रेसलिंग। जो रेसलिंग इंडिया की है वो आज के ओलंपिक में ईरान और इंडिया में ही थी ये रेसलिंग। और पहले ओलंपिक जो हमारा हुआ था 1896 में, उसमें 5 गेम हुए थे, उसमें भी रेसलिंग थी, एथलेटिक्स थी। और उसके बाद से हम कुछ सालों में परफॉर्मेंस नहीं कर पा रहे थे, हॉकी को छोड़ के एक्सेप्ट। तो हॉकी के बाद हमारे पास अब बहुत से गेमों में हम रिप्रेजेंट कर रहे हैं और मेडल लेने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं। ये जो रिवोल्यूशन शुरू हुआ था ये 1982 एशियन गेम्स के बाद स्टार्ट हुआ है। 1982 से पहले कैंप वगैरह नहीं लगते थे, टीम भी कभी कभार जाती थी, कभी कोई चली गई कोई नहीं गई, मतलब वो नहीं था, बस एक फॉर्मेलिटी के तौर पे खेले जाते थे। लेकिन जब 1982 में एशियन गेम्स हुए तो लोगों को एक्सपोज मिला, बाहर जाने का, बाहर कैंप लगाने का, दूसरे देशों से पता चला कि भाई हम कितने आगे हैं कितने पीछे हैं, उनकी एक्सरसाइज एक्टिविटी देखी। तो उसके बाद हमारे में बहुत चेंज आ रहा है दिन पे दिन।
ओके, ज्ञान सिंह जी, क्या मौका मिलेगा, क्योंकि हमारी स्पोर्टिंग प्रोवेस अब हर स्पोर्ट देख लीजिए, ठीक है। मुझे तो बड़ी खुशी हुई कि इस बारी स्क्वॉश में भी वी हैव डोमिनेटेड इन द एशियन गेम्स. You know, the Qataris, the Pakistanis were used to dominate the sport of squash. We've dominated there. Hockey, we've had a good run for many decades. We've been good at it. In the track and field events where Sunita ji has participated, we have shown great prowess. And at least in javelin, we can say we have the best javelin thrower of the age, of the modern era, who's an Indian. So, Gyan Singh ji, क्या अपॉर्चुनिटी मिलेगी हमें यहाँ पर कि जो ये
हमें मिलेगी तो देखो ये इसके क्या क्या चीजें होनी चाहिए आपके पास। ओलंपिक लेने के लिए आपके पास क्या होना चाहिए, आपका जो ओलंपिक के लिए एलिजिबिलिटी वो सारी हमारे पास हैं। हम इस लेवल पे हैं आज, हमने दिखाया है एशियन गेम्स करके, हमने दिखाया कॉमनवेल्थ गेम्स करके, हमने स्पोर्ट्स में भी दिखाया, हम स्पोर्ट्स में भी पीछे नहीं है। तो अब हमारे पास ऐसी कुछ नहीं है। हमारे रिच भी इंडिया का जो रिचेस्ट वो भी 5वें 6ठे नंबर पे इंडिया का हो गया था। तो अब हमारे पास ऐसी कोई चीज नहीं है जिससे हमें ना मिलेगा, हमें मिलेगा, हमें मिलना भी चाहिए।
ओके, एंड वी हैव 13 इयर्स, 13 साल है हमारे पास कि जो आज के जो 8-9 साल के बच्चे हैं, आप मान के चलो 13 साल बाद 8-9 साल के, आज जो 8-9 साल के बच्चे हैं जो अभी कोचिंग में हैं, शुरुआत कर रहे हैं, वो मेडल जीत रहे होंगे इंडिया में, शुभकामनाएं ऐसी. Let me get Sunita ji back into this conversation. Sunita ji, what is the opportunity? Because we have plenty of weeks and months to discuss now how we're going to prepare and how we win the bid, how we prepare a plan that is impressive and puts that thing. So we have plenty of times. But how do we use this opportunity for a revival of Indian sporting culture?
See, for Indian sporting culture, first of all, because it is now 13 years, so this 13 years preparation is a very good period where we can improve ourselves. Getting medals, we are showing the improvement. And about the funds, and Olympic takes a lot of funding. So for that, you won't believe, I'm so happy, Modi hai to mumkin hai, people say. And since 2015, we have one project which has gone to Sports Ministry, Railway Ministry, Home Ministry, and the Housing and Urban Development Ministry to put up in front of the PMO, where Olympic can happen in India without government cost, no cost to government. That kind of project we have made already from 2015. I can show this. See, in this it's written 2036 Olympics, and it's a very nice concept. And it is possible in India. It is possible because we have a lot of land with us. We have funds here and there. There are people who can put up funds, and Olympic bid can be done in 13 years. We can improve infrastructure. We can make so many stadiums, state-of-art stadiums everywhere, all over the country. and then the bidding will go. And PM showing the interest. He was, G20, you have seen the successful G20.
Yeah,
to same way
I think there's momentum. I think, Sunita ji, there's frank momentum. Okay, I think we'll probably get it. We still have to convincingly make a bid, and we have to win the bid. So I can't say it's done, but we have to make a strong bid and a convincing one, and be hopeful. Let me take a last word from Mr. Arya. Mr. Arya, how do we utilize this opportunity? We have 13 years. Okay, utilize this opportunity for the young people, the children of this country, who are the 8-9-year-olds, who are getting out there in the frontline Olympic sports, to make them excited about Indian sporting mythology, about what we've talked about, Kho-kho and Kabaddi. Forget get Indians excited. Now yoga is, taking over the world. Indian food is so popular all over the world. Indian fashion is originating. The kinds of clothes you are wearing are becoming more fashionable than the kinds of clothes I'm wearing, the suit and tie. What about Indian sport, the Kho-kho, the Kabaddi?
I think it's a great opportunity, and the way the Prime Minister is pursuing, certainly we are going to win the bid for the 2036. And it would be next 13 years would be a golden era for Indian sports. And certainly we are going to be at least number 2 position, number 1 or number 2 at least in Asia. That level we have to reach. And apart from our other thing, we have to introduce few Indian sports also in Olympics, if possible, during this 13 years. We probably very traditional sport like a Kalayarpattu in Kerala, whether that can be evolved into a sport, because some way you have to modify certain things to get that competitive world. So some Indian games we have to pursue to be introduced in Olympics. Apart from that, we have to project ancient India, the civilization, and as well as our various traditions of sports.
Okay, so let's take the opportunity. I'm short of time. I have 13 years, both of us, all of us rather, to figure this out. So we have plenty of discussions in front of us. But I just wanted to start the conversation today. Okay, just to start the conversation, and hope many of you get excited, because we have 13 years. So I think chess for sure, high likelihood that we can lobby for Olympic inclusion. For demonstration, Kho-kho, Kabaddi, for sure there should be demonstration tournaments happening. But you mentioned rowing, or another form of rowing, which is originating from Kerala. For sure we should take this up. And the Indian Olympics should not just be celebrating a Greco-Roman tradition, but also an Indian sporting tradition which we've forgotten. So maybe with your copy of Robin Hood, which I'm sure all of us have, maybe you should pick up a copy of the Dhanurved as well and read about Arjuna. Maybe you should read again about Abhimanyu in the Chakravyuh, and then re-examine the game of Kho-kho. Who knows what imagination might be sparked. I thank my guests for joining us.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.